10 years passed, the colony had rebuilt. New buildings stood where old ones had been damaged. The community hall had been renovated. A memorial stood in the center of the colony now. A simple stone marker with names of those who had been taken that night, and one name of someone who had saved them all, Day. No last name. Just Day, because that was all they knew. But the colony never forgot. Tilka stood in front of her small apartment mirror, adjusting her uniform. Dark blue with silver badges, the insignia of a sector ranger on her shoulder. She was 22 cycles old now, an adult, and she wore the uniform proudly. Her communicator buzzed. A message from Vesa. Good luck today. You'll do great. Make him proud, Tilka smiled. Vesa always knew what to say. Her sister had become a mediator, working to resolve conflicts between species. She traveled the sector, helping people understand each other, preventing problems before they became violence. Another message. This one from Nix. Remember everything we learned. Stay sharp. Stay safe. Nix was a teacher now. She ran a school on their home colony, teaching children about the galaxy, about different species, about staying calm in danger, about helping others. All three of them had changed after that night. They had spent years studying, learning, preparing. Each in their own way, they had decided to make a difference. Tilka's path had led her to law enforcement. She trained for years, pushing herself harder than anyone else in her class. When instructors said something was impossible, she thought of Day and proved them wrong. When she felt tired, she remembered hiding in that warehouse, scared and alone. She never wanted another child to feel that way. Now she was a ranger, and today was her first solo mission. The briefing came through on her communicator. A distress call from a mining outpost. Raiders had attacked. Not Kravath this time, but another group. The pattern was the same. Take captives. Sell them, disappear. The outpost had 14 inhabitants, mostly families. Including 5 children, backup was 3 days away. Tilka felt her heart racing. This was exactly the kind of situation Day had faced. One person, multiple hostiles, lives at stake. She could wait for backup. That would be the smart choice. The safe choice. The choice most rangers would make. But 3 days was too long. The raiders would be gone by then. Those children would be gone. She thought of Day, of how he had not hesitated, how he had looked at a bad situation and decided to act. If not me, who? If not now, when? She spoke the words out loud. They had become her personal motto, words that had guided her for 10 years. Tilka gathered her equipment. Not as much as she would like, but enough. She checked her plasma pistol, her tactical scanner, her basic supplies. Then she boarded her small ranger ship and set course for the outpost. The flight took 6 hours. She used the time to study the outpost layout, to plan, to think through every possibility. She had learned that preparation was half the battle. Day had made it look easy because he had thought everything through before acting. When she arrived, she scanned the outpost from orbit. 12 heat signatures in the main building, 3 signatures patrolling outside, 15 raiders total. The 14 hostages would be with the main group, 15-1. Worse odds than Day had faced, but Tilka was not Day. She was not human. She did not have his strength or his training. She had something else. She had learned from him. She had studied. She had prepared, and she was not going to wait. She landed her ship a kilometer from the outpost, far enough that they would not hear her approach. She moved through the rocky terrain carefully, using every bit of cover. Her species was naturally quiet, built for moving through forests. She used that now. The first patrol never saw her coming. She used a stun weapon, not wanting to kill if she could avoid it. The raider dropped without a sound. The second patrol was harder. He was alert, scanning his surroundings. Tilka waited for 20 minutes, barely breathing, until he looked away for just a moment. She moved fast, stun, down. The third patrol was walking with a partner now. The raiders had realized something was wrong. 2 against 1. Tilka thought carefully. She could not take them both at once. So she created a distraction. A small noise device she had brought, tossed 20 meters to her right. Both raiders turned toward the sound. She stunned them from behind, 5 down, 10 to go. The main building was harder. She could not sneak in like Day had. She was not trained for that. But she had studied the building plans. She knew there was a secondary entrance used for waste disposal. Small, barely large enough for her to fit through. She crawled through darkness and filth, ignoring the smell. When she emerged inside, she was in a storage room. She could hear voices from the main hall. The raiders were arguing about something. Good. Distracted enemies made mistakes. Tilka moved through the building like a shadow. She found the hostages first. They were tied up in a side room guarded by 2 raiders. She waited until both guards were looking at the hostages, their backs to the door. She burst in fast. Stun the first. The second turned, reaching for his weapon. She was faster. Stun. Quiet, she whispered to the hostages. I'm here to help. Stay silent. Their eyes went wide. A single ranger against multiple raiders. They probably thought she was crazy. Maybe she was. She cut their bonds quickly. Gave the strongest adult her backup weapon. When I signal, run for the west exit. My ship is 1 kilometer north. Get the children there first. And what about you? A woman asked. I'll keep them busy. Go when you hear noise. Tilka moved back into the corridor. 8 raiders left, all in the main hall. This was the hard part. She could try to take them quietly. But 8 was too many. 1 would raise the alarm. So she did not try to be quiet. She set off the fire alarm. The loud noise filled the building. Raiders shouted, confused. They thought something was wrong with their ship outside. 3 of them ran toward the exit. Tilka stunned them as they came through the doorway. 3 down, 5 left, the hostages ran. She heard them scrambling toward the west exit. Good. The remaining raiders realized what was happening. They started shooting. Plasma bolts burned through walls. Tilka kept moving, never staying in one place. She fired back when she had clear shots. Stun, stun, miss, stun, 2 left. 1 raider was smart. He went after the fleeing hostages instead of chasing her. Tilka's blood ran cold. She could not let him reach the children. She ran, faster than she had ever run. She caught the raider just as he raised his weapon toward a small child stumbling in the back of the group. Tilka did not think. She threw herself at him. They crashed together. His weapon fired, missing. They struggled. He was stronger, bigger, but Tilka was desperate. She had not come this far to fail. She thought of Day, of how he never gave up. She fought harder. Stun weapon pressed against his side. Fire. He went down. The last raider saw what was happening and ran. Fled to his ship. Tilka let him go. She was not here to capture everyone. She was here to save the hostages. The families reached her ship. She helped them board. The youngest child, maybe 6 cycles old, looked up at her with wide eyes. You saved us, the child whispered. All by yourself. Tilka smiled tiredly. Not all by myself. Someone taught me how. She filed her report on the flight back. 14 hostages rescued. 14 raiders captured or fled. 0 casualties. When she landed, her commander was waiting. A stern older ranger who had seen everything. That was reckless, he said. You should have waited for backup. They didn't have time. You could have died, but I didn't, and neither did they. Her commander looked at her for a long moment. Then he smiled. Good work, Ranger. But don't make a habit of being crazy. That night, Tilka called her sisters. Told them what happened. They were proud, worried, but proud. He would be proud too, Vesa said. If he knew, Nix added. Maybe he does, Tilka said. Maybe somewhere out there he's helping someone else. And maybe they'll learn from him too, and they'll help others. And it spreads, like ripples in water, Vesa said softly. One person makes a difference. Then the people they save make differences. On and on. Yeah, like ripples, they talked for another hour. About their work. Their lives. The ways they were each trying to make the galaxy better. When the call ended, Tilka sat in her small apartment and thought about a human she had met 10 years ago. A cargo hauler who had decided to help some scared children. She wondered where he was now. If he was still hauling cargo. If he had helped anyone else. If he even remembered them. She hoped he knew what he had started. That 3 children he had saved were now saving others. That the lesson he taught was spreading through the galaxy, one person at a time. That his choice to act, to help, to be fast enough, had changed more than just one colony. It had changed lives, futures, possibilities. Tilka pulled up her personal files and looked at an image she had saved years ago. A blurry photograph from the drone footage that night. D, standing in the doorway of the community hall, backlit by the lights inside. You could not see his face clearly, but you could see his posture. Calm, steady, Ready. Under the image, she had written the words that had become her guide. If not me, who? If not now, when? 10 years ago, one human had answered that question with action. Now, across the galaxy, others were learning to answer it too. The ripples spread wider every day. And somewhere out there, maybe Day was creating new ripples, helping new people, starting new chains of kindness and courage. Morning came too quickly. Tilka woke before dawn and dressed quietly. She slipped out of the house while her family still slept. The colony was peaceful now. Guards had been posted, volunteers from among the adults. But everyone knew the danger had passed. She walked to the landing pad. The morning bell sat where it had been, but now its engines hummed softly. Day was preparing to leave. The ship's door was open. Tilka climbed the ramp and knocked on the frame. "Come in," Day's voice called. She found him in the cargo bay, checking containers and securing straps. He looked tired, like he had not slept. "You're leaving," Tilka said. "Repairs are done. I have a delivery schedule to keep." He did not look at her as he worked. "Everyone wants to thank you properly. The Colony Council wants to hold a ceremony. Give you medals, money, whatever you want. I don't want medals. Then what do you want?" Day stopped working. He turned to face her. "I want to make sure you and your sisters are okay. Are you?" Tilka nodded. "Because of you." "Good, that's all that matters." He went back to work. Tilka watched him for a moment. This human who had saved them all was acting like he had just done a simple chore, like fighting 14 armed raiders was normal. "Can I ask you something?" Tilka said. "Sure. Why did you help us? You could have just left, fixed your ship and gone. It would have been safer." Day was quiet for a long time. He secured one final strap and then sat down on a cargo container. He looked at his hands. "You want the truth?" he asked. "Yes. I don't know." Tilka blinked. "You don't know?" "I mean, I know the reasons I tell myself. Someone needed help. I had the skills. It was the right thing to do. But the real reason?" He shook his head. "I think I just can't walk away. It's not in me. Because you're human." Day smiled slightly. "Maybe. Humans are good at convincing themselves they have to fix things." "You were a soldier," Tilka said. "I looked it up. Human Special Forces, elite troops." Day's smile faded. "Long time ago. Why did you stop?" "Because I got tired of killing." The words came out flat, empty. Being good at something doesn't mean you should keep doing it. Tilka sat down on another container across from him. "But you still fight. Only when I have to. Only to protect. That's different. How?" Day looked at her. Really looked at her. His eyes were dark and sad. "When I was a soldier, I followed orders. Went where they sent me. Did what they told me. Some of those orders were good, some..." He trailed off. "Let's just say I saw things that made me question everything. So you left. So I left. Bought this ship. Started hauling cargo. Quiet life. Simple life. I thought maybe I could just be nobody. Do nothing important. Stay out of trouble. But trouble found you. Trouble always finds you. That's the problem with running away. You can't run from yourself." Footsteps on the ramp. Vesa and Nix appeared in the doorway. "We thought we'd find you here," Vesa said to Tilka. Then to Day. "Can we come in?" "It's your colony," Day said. "I'm just visiting." The two younger girls entered and sat with their sister. 3 aliens looking at one human, trying to understand him. "We read about Earth," Nick said softly. "About humans. You come from a scary place. Earth isn't scary," Day said. "It's home. It's beautiful. The scary parts, those are just challenges. They made us stronger." "Is everyone on Earth like you?" Vesa asked. "Brave, strong, willing to fight?" Day laughed. It was a short, bitter sound. "I'm not brave. Brave is when you're scared and do it anyway. I wasn't scared last night. I was just working, solving a problem." "That sounds brave to us," Tilka said. "You want to know what real bravery is?" Day leaned forward. "It's what you 3 did. You hid for 3 days, starving, terrified. You could have given up, revealed yourselves. At least then the uncertainty would end. But you didn't. You survived. You stayed strong for each other." "That's brave." Tilka felt her throat tighten. She had not thought of it that way. "We were just trying not to die," Vesa said. "That's what bravery is. Trying not to die when dying would be easier." Day stood and walked to a small cabinet. He opened it and pulled out a photograph. Old, worn at the edges. He looked at it for a moment, then handed it to Tilka. It showed a group of humans in military uniforms. Young men and women, they were smiling. One of them was Day, younger, with lighter eyes. "Last tired, my unit," Day said. "Special operations." "We did. Difficult missions. Hostage rescue, behind enemy lines. The jobs nobody else wanted. What happened to them?" Nix asked. "Some retired, some died. Some are still out there doing the work." Day took the photo back and looked at it again. "We had a saying. Leave no one behind." It meant we never abandoned each other. No matter what. If someone was captured, we went back for them. If someone was wounded, we carried them. We were a team. "That's a good saying," Tilka said. "It is. Until you learn that sometimes you can't save everyone." Day's voice went quiet. "There was a mission. A colony like yours. Raiders had taken hostages. We went in to get them out. We did everything right. Planned perfectly. Executed flawlessly." He stopped. The silence stretched, but Vesa prompted gently. "But the raiders decided that if they couldn't sell the hostages, nobody would have them. They set explosives. We got most people out, most, not all." Day put the photo away. 3 children died. We were 10 seconds too slow. Just 10 seconds. The girls said nothing. What could they say? "After that, I couldn't do it anymore," Day continued. "Every mission, I saw those 3 children. Every success felt hollow because I remembered the ones I failed. So I left, told myself I was done. I'd become a trader, a hauler. Nobody important. But you're not nobody," Tilka said. "You saved us. You saved our whole colony. This time I was fast enough." Day looked at them. "But I think that's why I can't walk away. Every time I see someone in trouble, I remember those 3 kids. And I think maybe this time I can be fast enough." Understanding dawned on Tilka. Day was not a hero. He was not brave. He was haunted. Every person he saved was another chance to balance the scales, to make up for the ones he could not save. "That sounds exhausting," Vesa said. "It is." "Do you regret helping us?" Nix asked. "Never." Day's answer was immediate. "Helping people is never wrong. It's the not helping that you regret." Tilka stood and walked over to him. She was small, barely reaching his chest. But she looked up at him with all the seriousness a 12-cycle-old could manage. "Thank you for helping us. Thank you for being fast enough." Day's expression softened. He knelt down to her level. "You're welcome. And I'm sorry you had to go through that. No child should have to hide and be afraid." "No child should," Tilka agreed. "But they do. All over the galaxy. We learned that there are bad people everywhere. People who take children and sell them. Who hurt others for profit. Yeah, there are. So what do we do about it?" Day looked surprised. "What do you mean? You can't save everyone. You said so yourself. You're one person. But what if there were more people like you? More people willing to help? The galaxy has peacekeepers, police, military, authorities. Who take time to arrive," Tilka said. "Who follow rules and procedures. Who are usually too late. You weren't too late because you didn't wait. What are you suggesting?" Tilka took a deep breath. Teach us to be like you," Day stood up. "No, absolutely not. You're children. We won't always be children. And we'll never forget what happened here. What you did. How one person made all the difference." Tilka's voice grew stronger. "You said leave no one behind. You said if you can help, you should help. So help us become people who can help others." Day looked at the 3 girls, at their determined faces. He saw something in them that he recognized. The same thing he had seen in the mirror years ago when he decided to join the military. The desire to make a difference. "I'm not a teacher," he said finally. "You don't have to teach us to fight," Tilka said. "Just teach us to think. How to solve problems. How to see situations clearly. How to decide when to act. That's more dangerous than teaching you to fight." "Good, because the galaxy is dangerous, and we want to be ready for it." Day was quiet for a long time. Then he sighed. "I'm leaving in an hour. I won't see you again." "That's okay. You've already taught us the most important lesson." "What lesson?" Tilka smiled. "That one person can make a difference. You just have to be willing to try." Day looked at her, then at Vesa and Nix. 3 children who had faced horror and survived, who were now looking at the future with determination instead of fear. Maybe he had taught them something after all. "Be careful," he said finally. "The galaxy needs people who care. But it's hard on them. It breaks them sometimes." "Then we'll be strong," Vesa said. "We'll be smart. Nix added. We'll be ready, Tilka finished. Day nodded slowly. Yeah, I think you will be. An hour later, the morning bell lifted off. The colony gathered to watch it go. 3 little girls stood together watching the ship disappear into the sky. They did not know it yet, but their lives had just begun, and the galaxy would never be quite the same. The colony was celebrating. Adults hugged their children. Families reunited. Someone had started cooking food, real food, and the smell filled the air. The nightmare was over. But Tilka could not stop thinking. She sat with Vesa and Nix in the small house they shared with their parents. Their mother held them close, crying and laughing at the same time. Their father kept touching their faces like he needed to make sure they were real. We thought we lost you, their mother whispered. When we couldn't find you, we thought... A human saved us, Nix said quietly. He saved everyone, their father nodded. Day we met him. He refused any reward, any recognition. He just wanted to finish his ship repairs and leave. Where is he now? Tilka asked. At his ship, working. He says he'll leave in the morning. Tilka stood up. I need to do something. I'll be back. She walked to the colony's information center. It was a small building with computers connected to the galactic network. Most colonies had them for trade and communication. Tilka sat down at a terminal and started searching. She typed, Humans, Earth, species information. The results filled the screen. The first thing she noticed was the classification. Earth was listed as a Class 9 death world. Tilka blinked. She had heard of death worlds. They were planets so dangerous that most species could not survive there. Only a few species came from death worlds. They were usually aggressive, dangerous, or both. She kept reading. Earth's gravity was 1.4 times standard. That meant humans grew up carrying extra weight on their bodies every single day. Their muscles, their bones, their entire bodies were built to handle forces that would exhaust most species. Earth's atmosphere had more oxygen than most worlds. That meant humans could process energy faster. They could run longer, fight longer. Their endurance was exceptional. But that was not the most interesting part. Tilka found a section about human evolution. She read it twice to make sure she understood. Humans were predators, but not like most predators. Most predators were ambush hunters. They hid and struck fast. Humans were different. They were persistence hunters. They chased their prey for hours, for days. They did not need to be faster. They just needed to never stop. They would follow their prey until it collapsed from exhaustion. Then they would take it. That's terrifying, Tilka whispered to herself. She found more information. Human reaction times were average compared to other species. But their pattern recognition was extraordinary. They could see a situation and understand it in seconds. They could predict what would happen next. That was why Day had moved so efficiently. He was not faster than the Krivath. He just knew where they would be and what they would do. Then she found a section that made her hands shake. Human history. She scrolled through the files. Wars. So many wars. Humans had spent most of their history fighting each other. They had developed thousands of ways to fight. Entire systems of combat. They studied violence like other species studied art. But that was not what shocked her. She found stories. Historical records. Events that had been documented and verified. A human soldier holding a bridge against an entire army. One man, one bridge. He held it long enough for his people to escape. A human woman protecting children during an attack. She had no weapons. She used her own body as a shield. She saved 12 children before she died. A human crew on a damaged ship refusing to abandon their passengers even though they knew the ship was going to explode. They stayed at their posts until everyone else was safe, over and over. The same pattern. Humans choosing to stand and fight when running away made more sense. Choosing to help when helping meant danger. Choosing to act when waiting was safer. Tilka found a phrase that kept appearing in the records. A human saying. She read it out loud. If not me, who? If not now, when? She sat back in her chair. This was what Day had done. He had not waited for authorities. He had not called for help and hidden. He had looked at the situation and decided that someone needed to act. So he acted. Footsteps behind her. Vesa and Nix had followed her. What are you looking at? Vesa asked. Humans, Tilka said. I'm trying to understand them. Vesa looked at the screen. She read some of the text. Her eyes went wide. They come from a death world. They're built for fighting. That's why Day was so strong. It's not just strength, Tilka said. She pulled up more files. Look at this. Their culture, their values. Most species believe in calling for help, waiting for proper authority, following rules and systems. That makes sense, Nick said. That's how society works. But humans also believe in individual action. They have stories about heroes, people who saw something wrong and fixed it themselves. They celebrate this. They teach it to their children, Vesa frowned. That sounds dangerous. What if everyone just did whatever they wanted? That would be chaos, Tilka shook her head. It's not about doing whatever you want. It's about responsibility. Look at this quote. She pointed to text on the screen. With great power comes great responsibility. Another human saying, Tilka explained. They believe that if you have the ability to help, you have the duty to help. Not because someone orders you, not because you'll get paid, but because it's right. The three girls sat in silence, reading more about humans, about Earth, about a species that seemed designed for conflict but chose to use that design to protect others. Day could have ignored us, Vesa said softly. His ship was broken. He could have fixed it and left. The Krevath would never have known he was there. But he didn't, Nick said. He saw children in danger, and he decided to help. Tilka found more information about human military training. It was extensive, brutal. Humans who joined their military forces spent years learning how to fight, how to survive, how to complete impossible missions. Day said he had military training, Tilka remembered, a long time ago. She searched for more specific information, found files about human special forces, elite soldiers trained for the most dangerous missions, hostage rescue, behind enemy lines operations, asymmetric warfare. One soldier trained to do what would normally take a team, or a squad, or even a small army. That's what he was, Vesa breathed. He wasn't just a soldier. He was one of their best soldiers. And now he hauls cargo, Nick said. Why would someone like that become a simple trader? Tilka did not have an answer. But she thought maybe it did not matter. Maybe Day wanted a quiet life. Maybe he wanted to leave fighting behind. But when people needed help, he could not ignore it because he was human. The girls returned home. Their parents were preparing dinner. The smell of cooked grain and vegetables filled the house. Normal smells, safe smells, but Tilka could not feel normal. Mother, she said, can I ask you something? Of course, dear. If you saw someone in danger, what would you do? Her mother looked surprised. I would call for help. Contact the authorities. The patrol. That's what any reasonable person would do. But what if there wasn't time? What if you were the only one who could help? Her mother thought about this. Then, I suppose I would try, but I would be careful. I wouldn't risk my life needlessly. Some situations are beyond what one person can handle. Tilka nodded. That made sense? That was the logical answer, but Day had handled it anyway. That night, Tilka lay in her bed and thought about everything she had learned. About humans, about death worlds, about a species that refused to accept the word impossible. She thought about how Day had looked at 3 scared children and simply said, how many raiders are there? Not I can't help, not we should wait, just how many. Like it was a problem to be solved. Not an impossible situation to run from. Outside her window, she could see Day's ship. The morning bell, lights were on inside. He was probably still working on repairs. Getting ready to leave. To go back to his quiet life of hauling cargo, until the next time someone needed help. Vesa rolled over in the bed they shared. Are you still awake? Yes. I've been thinking about what we learned today. Me too. Humans are scary, but also kind of amazing. Tilka smiled in the darkness. Yeah, they are. Do you think there are more humans like Day? People who help even when it's dangerous? I think, Tilka said slowly, that all humans are a little bit like D. They're built for it. Evolved for it. They can't help but help. That's a strange way to be. Maybe. But I'm glad they're that way, because it saved us. In the morning, Day would leave. The patrol would arrive and take the Krevath away. Life would go back to normal, but nothing would ever be the same for 3 little girls who had learned that sometimes one person really can change everything. They just had to be willing to try, and humans, it seemed, were always willing to try. Tilka could not sit still. She paced back and forth in the small ship, her mind racing. The human had been gone for 20 minutes. 20 minutes walking toward certain death. We should have stopped him, Vesa said from her seat. She was hugging her knees. We should have done something. What could we do? Tilka snapped. Then she felt bad. None of this was Vesa's fault. I'm sorry. I don't understand why he would do this. Why would he risk his life for people he doesn't even know? Nix had not spoken since Dai left. She sat very still, staring at the computer terminal he had been using. Suddenly she stood and walked over to it. The screen was still on, showing the colony maps. Look, Nix said softly. Tilka and Vesa came over. The screen showed more than maps. There were files open. Equipment inventories, ship systems, and something else. A small icon in the corner that said drone active. Tilka's breath caught. He has a surveillance drone. Her fingers moved across the screen, remembering how her father had taught her to use similar systems. The colony traded with many species, and everyone learned basic computer operation. She found the drone controls and pulled up its camera feed. The screen filled with an image, night vision, showing the colony streets in shades of green and gray, and there, moving through the shadows, was day. We can see what he's doing, Vesa whispered. We can watch, should we? Tilka asked. But even as she said it, she was adjusting the drone's position, keeping it high enough that the Kravath would not notice it, but close enough to see clearly. They watched in silence. Day moved through the colony like smoke. He kept to the darkest shadows, avoiding the lights the Kravath had set up. He moved slowly, carefully, checking every corner before advancing. A Kravath guard stood at the end of a street, his plasma rifle held loosely. He looked bored. These raiders had faced no resistance. They thought the colony was helpless. They were relaxed. That was their first mistake. Day approached from behind, using a building for cover. The distance between them was at least 20 meters. Open ground, no cover. The girls held their breath, waiting for Day to circle around to find another way. He did not circle around. He moved so fast the camera almost lost him. One moment he was against the wall. The next moment he was behind the guard. The Kravath started to turn, some instinct warning him. Too late. Day's arm wrapped around the raider's neck. The guard struggled for maybe 3 seconds. Then he went limp. Day lowered him to the ground silently. He took the guard's rifle and something from his belt. Then he was gone, melting back into the shadows. What just happened? Vesa asked. Her voice shook. Tilka could not answer. Her mouth was dry. That was impossible. The Kravath were trained warriors. They had enhanced reflexes from combat drugs. They should not be able to be surprised like that. They should not be able to be beaten in hand-to-hand combat. But this human had just done exactly that. They watched as Day found another guard. This one was more alert, scanning his surroundings. It did not matter. Day moved when the guard was looking the other way, crossing impossible distances in heartbeats. The guard went down without making a sound, then a third. A fourth. How is he doing this? Tilka whispered. How is he moving so fast, so quietly? Maybe humans are stronger than we thought, Vesa said. But she sounded uncertain. Nix pointed at the screen. Look at how he moves. He knows where they are before they know he's there. He's not just strong. He's smart, she was right. Day was not attacking randomly. He was picking off the guards one by one in a specific order. He was cutting off their communication, creating blind spots, making sure none of them could raise an alarm. 5 guards down, 6, 7. The girls watched, barely breathing. This should not be possible. One person should not be able to do this. Day reached the edge of the community hall. This was where the captured colonists were being held. This was where the remaining Kravath were gathered. 8 raiders all in one place, all armed, all alert. The smart thing to do would be to wait, to pick them off one by one as they came out. To be patient, Day was not patient. He climbed the side of the building. The wall was smooth metal, no handholds. But somehow he found grip, pulling himself up inch by inch. He moved like an insect, like gravity meant nothing to him. 20 feet, 30. He reached the roof. There was a ventilation shaft. Day pulled a tool from his pocket and opened it. The opening looked too small for him to fit through. He fit anyway, disappearing into the darkness. Where is he going? Vesa asked. The drone could not see inside the building. The girls waited, staring at the screen. Minutes passed. Nothing happened, then they heard it. Through the ship's external audio sensors, faint but clear, sounds from the community hall, shouting. Plasma fire. something crashing. The sounds lasted maybe 2 minutes, then silence. The girls looked at each other. Tilka felt her hands shaking. Is he? The door of the community hall opened. People stumbled out. Lyran people. Their people. Adults from the colony, blinking in confusion, looking around like they could not believe they were free. And then Day emerged. He was walking calmly like he had just finished a routine task. There was a cut on his arm, bleeding slightly. That was the only sign that anything had happened. Behind him, through the open door, the girls could see Krevath bodies. Not dead. Unconscious. All 8 of them lying on the floor, their weapons scattered around them. 1 human. 8 trained warriors. 2 minutes. That's impossible, Vesa said. That's completely impossible. But it had happened. They had watched it happen. Day was talking to the freed colonists now. The drone's audio picked up fragments. He was telling them to secure the raiders, to send a message to Sector Patrol, to stay alert in case more Krevath came. One of the adults, a man named Kelvir, grabbed Day's hand. How did you do this? Who are you? Day pulled his hand away gently. Nobody special. Just someone who was here when you needed help. But 1 person against all of them? That's not possible. Day looked tired. It's possible. You just have to know how. Another adult stepped forward. Tilka recognized her. Mirana, one of the colony's teachers. The children, 3 little girls. They were missing. We thought the Krevath took them. Did you see them? They're safe, Day said. They're on my ship. Relief washed over the adults' faces. Some of them were crying. Tilka felt tears on her own cheeks. She had not realized she was crying. We'll get you your children back soon, Day continued. First, make sure these raiders stay unconscious. Tie them up. When patrol arrives, they'll take them away. Your colony is safe now. How do we thank you? Kelvir asked. You saved us all. Our children. Our lives. How do we repay this? Day shook his head. You don't, just take care of each other. That's enough. He turned and started walking back toward his ship. Back toward the girls, Tilka quickly closed the drone feed. They sat in their seats trying to look like they had not been watching. Like they had been waiting patiently like he asked. When Day opened the door, they all jumped. He looked at them. Looked at the computer terminal with the drone controls still visible. He sighed. You watched. It was not a question. We're sorry, Tilka said quickly. We needed to know if you were okay. Day closed the door behind him. He went to a cabinet and pulled out a medical kit. He started cleaning the cut on his arm. The girls stared at him. This ordinary-looking human who had just done the impossible. How did you do that? Vesa finally asked. How did you beat all of them? Day did not look up from bandaging his arm. Training, experience, knowing what to expect. But you're just 1 person, Nick said. Yeah. And they were 8. Plus the others outside. 15 total. I counted 14. 14 trained soldiers. With weapons. With drugs that make them faster and stronger. Day finished with his arm. He looked at the 3 girls. Sometimes numbers don't matter. Sometimes 1 person who knows what they're doing is worth more than a dozen who don't expect resistance. But how did you learn to fight like that? Tilka asked. Where did you train? Something dark crossed Day's face. A long time ago. In a place far from here. He stood up. Your parents are free. The colony is safe. In a few hours, patrol will arrive and take the raiders away. You can go home. That's it? Vesa asked. You're just going to leave? My repairs are almost done. I have cargo to deliver. Tilka stood up. She walked over to Day and looked up at him. This human who had saved them all, who had done the impossible. Thank you, she said. I don't know why you helped us, but thank you. Day's expression softened. You don't have to thank me. I just did what needed to be done. Outside, the colony was waking up. People were reuniting with their families. Tears of joy were flowing, and 3 little girls sat in a human ship, trying to understand what they had just witnessed. They did not know it yet, but this night would change their lives forever, because they had learned something most species never learned. Sometimes, the impossible is just difficult, and humans specialize in doing difficult things. The warehouse smelled like rust and fear. Tilka pressed her back against the cold metal wall and tried to stop shaking. Beside her, Vesa clutched her arm so tight it hurt. Little Nix had stopped crying an hour ago. Now she just stared at nothing with wide, empty eyes. 3 days. They had been hiding for 3 days. Tilka could still hear the screams from when the raiders came. The Krevath had arrived in the middle of the night, their ships blocking out the stars. They moved through the colony like a storm, taking everyone they could find. Her mother had pushed her toward the back door, shouting at her to run. To hide, to take her sisters and not look back, she had run. She hated herself for it, but she had run. Now they were alone. The colony was silent except for the heavy footsteps of Krevath patrols searching the buildings. The raiders were looking for children they had missed. Tilka heard them talking yesterday, their voices rough and cruel. They called the children remaining inventory, like they were boxes of supplies, like they were things to be sold. Bessa's stomach growled. They had not eaten since yesterday morning. The water bottles they found were almost empty. Tilka knew they could not hide much longer. The Krevath would find them eventually, or they would starve, or die of thirst. She closed her eyes and wished for someone to help them. Anyone. But the galaxy did not work that way. Help took time. By the time authorities arrived, they would be gone. Sold. Lost forever. A sound made her freeze. Footsteps. Not the heavy boots of Krevath. These were different. Quieter, coming closer. Tilka grabbed Vessa's hand. She looked around for somewhere to run, but there was nowhere left to go. They were in the deepest corner of the warehouse, behind old mining equipment that had not been used in years. If someone found them here, it was over. The footsteps stopped just outside their hiding spot. "I know you're there," a voice said. It spoke in Galactic Common, the language most species used for trade. The accent was strange. "Not Krevath. I'm not going to hurt you. I saw you watching me from the window yesterday." Tilka's heart pounded. Yesterday she had been careless. She had looked out through a crack in the wall for just a moment, hoping to see if help had arrived. She must have been spotted. "My name is Day," the voice continued. "I'm a cargo hauler. My ship broke down and I stopped here for repairs. I've been watching the Krevath. I know what happened here, a cargo hauler. Not military. Not authorities. Just a traveler." Tilka felt hope die in her chest. What could one person do? But they had no other choice. She stood slowly, pulling Vessa up with her. Nyx followed like a shadow. They stepped out from behind the equipment. The man standing there was human. Tilka had seen humans before in the trade posts. They were common in this sector. This one looked ordinary. He wore simple work clothes, dark pants, and a gray jacket. His face had lines around the eyes and mouth, like he was tired. His hair was black and messy. He looked like someone who worked hard and did not get enough sleep. He did not look like someone who could help them. But when he saw them, his expression changed. Something hard moved behind his eyes. He knelt down slowly, bringing himself to their height. "Are you hurt?" he asked. Tilka shook her head. Her voice came out small. "They took everyone. Our parents. All the adults. They're keeping them in the community hall. They said a ship is coming in 3 days to take them away." Day nodded slowly. He did not look surprised. "How many raiders? What? How many Krevath are in the colony?" Tilka blinked. Why did that matter? Maybe 15. Maybe more. They have big weapons. Plasma rifles. They're soldiers. Where are they keeping the prisoners? The community hall. In the center of the colony, but Tilka felt tears burning her eyes. "You can't help. No one can help. Not in time. The authorities won't come before the ship arrives. We're alone." Day looked at her for a long moment. Then he stood and held out his hand. "Come with me. My ship has food and water. You'll be safe there." Vessa pulled on Tilka's sleeve. "Don't trust him," she whispered in their own language. "What if he's like them? What if he wants to sell us too?" Tilka looked at the human. She looked at his eyes. They were dark and calm. There was something in them that reminded her of her father. Something solid, something that did not run away. "We don't have a choice," she whispered back. They followed Day through the ruined colony. He moved carefully, checking corners before they crossed open spaces. Twice he raised his hand and they all stopped, waiting in silence while Krevath patrols passed nearby. The raiders never saw them. Day seemed to know exactly where they would be and where they would not look. His ship was small, parked at the edge of the colony landing pad. It looked old but well maintained. The name on the side said Morning Bell in faded letters. Day opened the door and led them inside. The interior was clean and organized. Everything had a place. It smelled like metal and something cooking. Real food. Sit, Day said, pointing to seats near a small table. He went to a storage cabinet and pulled out ration packs, the kind that expanded when you added water. He prepared 3 portions and set them in front of the girls. They ate like they were starving. Because they were. While they ate, Day worked at a computer terminal. He pulled up maps of the colony, building layouts, satellite images. He studied them with intense focus, his fingers moving across the screen marking locations. "What are you doing?" Tilka asked around a mouthful of food. "Planning," Day said without looking up. "Planning what?" "How to get your people back." Vesa stopped eating. "But you're just one person. And they have weapons. Good weapons. You can't fight them." Day finally looked at her. His expression was calm. "I know. Then what are you planning?" Tilka asked. She felt confused, scared. This human was acting like he could do something, like he could help. But that was impossible. "You'll stay here," Day said. He pressed buttons on a panel near the door. "The ship will lock when I leave. Don't open it for anyone but me. There's more food in the cabinet. Water too. The bathroom is through that door. Where are you going?" Nick spoke for the first time in days. Her voice was barely a whisper. Day checked something on his wrist device. A small screen lit up showing the time. The community hall. "I'll be back before morning." "You can't," Tilka stood up. "You don't understand. The Krevath will kill you. This isn't like other places. They're dangerous. They're trained fighters. You're just..." She stopped. "Just what?" Dee asked quietly. "Just one person." Day smiled. It was a small, sad smile. "Yeah, I am." He walked to the door. Tilka felt panic rising in her chest. This stupid human was going to get himself killed, and then they would truly be alone. "Don't go," she said. "Please, just call for help." "Wait for the authorities." Day paused at the door. He looked back at them. "Your people don't have time to wait. And those raiders?" His voice went cold. "They took children. Someone needs to teach them that was a mistake." The door closed behind him. The locks engaged with a heavy click. The 3 girls sat in silence, staring at the door. "He's going to die," Vesa whispered. Tilka wanted to argue, but she could not. Because Vesa was probably right. Outside, night was falling over the colony, and somewhere in that darkness, one human walked toward 15 armed raiders with nothing but a plan and whatever was in his pockets. The girls did not know it yet, but they were about to learn something about humans that most species never understood. Sometimes one person is enough.